Welcome to my channel, All for Health with Jane. Family, we are still on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. We are almost at the end of a trial within a trial. Today, on the 11th of March 2024, the defense continued with their presentation of the heads of argument led by Attorney Ramosepele. Family, if the defense or maybe if these officials in court were to be given a trophy, for me, definitely my trophy would go to Ramosepele. You know, the presentation by Ramosepele was so excellent, very excellent. Ramosepele interrogated the performer that was completed for for accused number one. Went through it, you know, step by step. And whatever he was arguing, he argued it with facts. You know, family, to be honest, Ramosepele did well in this. It's just that Ratha being Ratha, you know, Ratha kept on interrupting. He kept on responding even where he was not supposed to respond. But whether Ramosepele gets this one or not, at the end of the day, he's the best in this process. I don't want to lie. According to me, if I was to judge Ramosepele or to adjudicate, Ramosepele is my best. He did very well, family. Let's listen to him as he was doing this presentation and arguments. Let's listen.
And then 7.2, if so, to whom, when, and under what circumstances? The answer is under normal circumstances. And then 7.3, why do you wish to repeat the statement? The answer, they told me not to talk in details. They will arrange somebody else to obtain the statement who is not participating in the investigation. Now, my Lord, what then is my issue here is that at 7.2, the answer that is given to whom have you given the statement, under what, when and under what circumstances? The reply thereto is under normal circumstances. I submit, my Lord, what the question wanted was the background to how the statement was made to those officers. Where, when, and under what circumstances. And my submission is that Colonel Mboto does not pursue this question further because it's an ambiguous question. He does not elicit what normal conditions the accused is referring to, because contextually, if you say under normal circumstances, it's vague. We submit. And this question, in my view, required Mboto to ask what happened between the police officers that this statement was previously given to. What happened between them and accused number one in order for accused number one to have agreed to this process of him brought before Colonel Mboto. Now, in further elaboration of this, my Lord, and it's a concern that we see regularly when we are involved in matters that involve trials within a trials and admissibility and denials of statements being made, is that prior to a suspect being brought before a commissioned officer, this question will be asked and it will be noted. But then the problem is that when the commissioned officer makes his own statement, it appears on the statement of the commissioned officer that this is a spontaneous answer that was given to me. It has never been given to anyone else. Whereas this answer was elicited before, during interrogations that do not form this part, that are not disclosed to that commission officer. That, by the way, I was interrogated first by Mohola at Vusimuzi Hostel at the gate, according to her, which is disputed by accused number 1. I was then taken to Litabong, interrogated under coercive circumstances where I was assaulted in the following manner. I was then taken from there to Fosno Ras, where I was further interrogated by Brigadier Gininda in the confines of a car, where I've waited for him for 3 hours in handcuffs that were injuring my wrist. I was swollen. So those circumstances, when you look at this answer, it says normal circumstances. So nothing happened because no response, further response is elicited from the accused person when he says under normal circumstances. Those we submit, my lord, are not normal circumstances. And this is not a spontaneous answer that is given for the first time to the commissioned office. It's been given to other people under, as we submit, under very coercive circumstances. And also this answer in 7.3, it creates an air of suspicion that accused number 1 was told what to say at Mboto. And I repeat the answer again. He says, they told me not to talk in details. They will arrange somebody else to obtain the statement who is not participating in the investigation. There's an air out there, my lord, of suspicion that what we are told by Brigadier Gininda, that without much ado, you say to accused number 1, I've got a reason that you are a person of interest. And accused number 1 says, yes, I've always wanted to take the monkey off my back without anything further. We submit that cannot be, my lord. Now, at 6.11 of my heads, my lord, we say question 6 deals with whether the accused person had any injuries, if so, of what nature, to which the accused answered as follows. Yes, in both arms I have marks due to the handcuffs that were very tight. And the observation by 6.12 by Colonel Mboto was as follows. I noticed the marks on both hands, and I even loosened the clips of the handcuffs. And further, my lord, there's a section where Colonel Mboto, with regard to these injuries, he says, when asked about the nature of the injuries that he saw, he said, I saw red dots of blood and a little bit of swelling on the wrist of accused number 1. Now, my lord, let's take it into context to show how improbable that is. The injuries that Mboto says minimizes by saying there were little drops of blood, a little bit of swelling. Accused number 1 is arrested in Tembisa at around 1:30 on the 30th of May, 1:30 p.m. on the 30th of May 2020. There and then he's handcuffed, and the police officers make sure from then that the handcuffs are tightly squeezed around the wrists of accused number 1. At the time he is presented to Mboto at 21:45 p.m. on the 30th, he has been in those tightly squeezed handcuffs for 8 hours plus. And there's a reason why Mboto says, I loosen them up. He's a police officer. You can see these handcuffs are causing injury, harm, damage to accused number 1. So my submission is that Colonel Mboto, as a police officer, he's minimizing the injuries that he actually observed, because accused number 1 says, my hands were swollen and I was bleeding from my hands. It was not a little bit, it was not little bits of droplets of blood. And my lord, I'm going to ask the court to take judicial notice of jurisprudence that emanates from the UN regarding the use of handcuffs as a means of torture. And literature says the prolonged use of handcuffs and other restraints is a means of torture. Accused number 1 says, in Tembisa, when I was arrested, made to lie down twice, first time, Mapumulo lifts and leverages me up with the handcuffs that are tightly squeezed. I don't have to be accused number 1 to imagine the excruciating pain when your body is only leveraged. You are lifted up with the handcuffs at your back. And that happened at Tembisa, according to accused number 1, twice, because first time, all 3 of them, the 2 gentlemen that he was with, they were made to lay down. Then they picked accused number 1 up. Who are you? I'm Moses Bia. I'm from Kwamatabatini. Lay him down. Pick these ones up. They are not restrained. Whatever happened to them happens to them. He goes on the ground for the second time again. He's leveraged, lifted up with those handcuffs with his hands at the back. So from there, assault and torture, in this manner, it is my submission, my lord, begins. Now, as they testify, both accused number 1 and 2 kept on showing the respective interpreters that to this day I still have marks around my wrists. Now, if we minimize that to what Advocate Baloyi said on Friday, that the marks that were there were tantamount to a mark left by a watch, a strap of a watch. I'm wondering, my lord, what watches are they making these days? What watches with, remember, the makeup, my lord, of the handcuffs. They've got these parts, these serrated parts. They are double layered, these bracelets, double layered, hollow inside. Whenever they are squeezed, my lord, a number of things will happen. I'm not a medical expert, but any stretch of imagination.
But you are testifying to that now.
The court will take judicial notice, which is common sense.
But you are not arguing that when he was lifted with his cuffs, it was intended to induce him to make a confession.
No.
I've never heard any one of you saying that.
No.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with the making of the statement, yes. But I said from this moment on, the assault starts. Because you are softening up your target for later.
Fine.
Now, also, my lord, if now, according to Sergeant Mohola and Brigadier Gininda, that having spoken to accused number 1 and having heard that he's cooperating, he is going to make a statement, then, my lord, it won't make sense that you still keep him on with those handcuffs still tightly squeezed. You loosen them up because now he's working with you. Why will they still be kept tightly squeezed even then?
Was it ever put to Sergeant Mohola, Mohano, Utelezi, Munaring, that you purposefully tightened the handcuffs on accused number 1 and 2? I'm not sure which one. Number 1. In order to torture him and in order to perpetrate an assault. Was it ever put?
That was never put, my lord.
Yeah.
We'll concede to that ready.
It was never put. Fine, let's go on.
Yes. Now, also, my lord, this issue of the injuries to the wrists, then it proceeds. Where does it go? It goes to the OBs that were Exhibit NN, in particular, Pretoria North, in the morning, 1:40 a.m., when accused number, not Pretoria North, I'm sorry, my lord, Valeria, SAPS, when accused number 1 is booked. Because now, the cell master will see when the handcuffs are removed from accused number 1, and whether the injuries that he sees have got to do with the assault for the statement or the injury by themselves, these are the injuries that somebody who removes the handcuffs, who takes somebody to the cells, will find hard to miss, my lord. So the entry in Exhibit NN that says accused number 1 is received without visible injuries cannot be true, my lord. How can you miss those injuries on the wrist where you remove the handcuffs? Because somebody doesn't go to the cells with the handcuffs. How will you miss that? How will you not note that? Now, the evidence of accused number 1 is that on all 3 occasions where he was assaulted, be it Lethabong, Fosloras, and Diproof SAPS, the main mode of assault was a clear plastic bag covering his face, nose, mouth, up to the neck level so that he cannot breathe, with somebody pulling that plastic bag from behind and somebody holding him so that he doesn't move. And my lord, also the court will berate me that I'm not a medical expert, but with all due respect, my lord, what sort of visible injuries would we expect to see from a plastic bag pulled over somebody's face? And what sort of injuries would we see?
But he was kicked by 13 men, remember? He was kicked, assaulted, choked, tubed, etc., etc., etc.
My lord, with respect, I think during Mr. Mgomezulu's leading of accused number 1, the court vividly asked, who assaulted you? And the names that accused number 1 mentioned, and offhand, they don't come to me, but I remember he mentioned Mohola, Butelezi, and he never intimated that all 13 participated in the assault. He said they were present. We all drove to Lethabong. We all drove to Fosloras. Okay, but he doesn't intimate.
But at least it's more than 1.
At least it's more than 1.
Okay, fine. Let's go on.
My lord, I also submit that it will be pure speculation and conjecture in the absence of a J88 detailing the injuries, because only a medical expert will detail the injuries that were perpetrated to an accused person who was assaulted in the manner that he alleges. So my submission is that it will be speculation. We don't know how he was kicked, where he was kicked.
Well, we know he was kicked with booted feet, for instance.
But the pressure, how those kicks were, we don't know.
He was kicked all over his body.
Yes. And by his own testimony says, the ill effect thereof was, my body was sore all over after this incident, and also whatever feelings he had from the suffocation.
Sorry, this submission about the J88, what does it concern?
Sorry, my lord.
The J88, you're saying it is only through the agency of a J88 that you can establish what sort of injuries a person sustained?
Yes, my lord.
Is that the law?
My lord, in terms of detailing the injuries to a suspect or a victim, what I know in South Africa is that the person gets taken to a doctor who completes the J88.
Yes, it must be taken to a doctor?
Yes.
After laying a complaint at least?
Yes.
Normally?
Yes.
Because that's the commencement of criminal proceedings?
Yes.
Yeah. Mokotling says, Ramosepele kicked me, choked me, etc., etc., and I intend laying a complaint.
Yes.
Then the police are going to say to you, fine, make your statements. Thereafter they take you to the district surgeon or a doctor.
Yes.
In a hospital.
Yes. Yeah, that's a procedure, my lord.
Yeah.
Indeed, so.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, also, my lord, we just briefly touch on what, I'm not sure about his rank, Mr. Swanepoel testified in this court about the procedures pertaining to the reporting if there's a complaint of assault or any other abuse, maltreatment of the conditions in which you were caught. My lord, my submission is simply this. The national instruction speaks about an ideal. We are talking about reality. We are talking about South Africa 2023-24. This is not an idealistic world whereby police officers do their jobs according to book.
Is that a serious statement?
My lord, I'll say this with all due respect.
No, but you're referring to all police
No,
in
no, no.
South Africa.
Okay,
You're saying this
I'll
is not
confine.
in 2023, police never use those directives by Swanepoel. That's basically your submission.
I'll confine
Because
myself to this
we're
case.
in a different era.
Yes. I'll confine myself to this case and I'll show by
Counter
an
distinction.
example. Yes.
When police murdered Steve Biko, they used to use this directive, for instance. Is that so?
I don't know when this directive was publicized. I don't know even whether human rights were applicable as to the conditions.
Yeah,
of
we know
your cell
apartheid
and
was
whatever.
bad, terrible, but there were certain minimum standards applicable.
Unfortunately, I've
That's
never,
why there are the judges' rules.
Yes.
These were formulated in 2014. Is that so, Mr.?
Yes, I think 19...
Sorry,
31, if I'm not-
1940,
31.
1931.
Yes.
Every policeman had to know the judges' rules. And if you go through the judges' rules,
Yes.
they talk about these unlawful acts of assaulting, torturing suspects and detainees and arrestees.
Yes, my lord.
1931. Okay, let's proceed, sir.
Thank you, my lord. I mean, that's it.
Family, Ramosepele's presentation on the torturing of the accused, torturing of accused number one, it was brilliant. Otherwise, if Ratha cannot get this, family, I don't know what to say. But, you know, a well-prepared presentation by Judge Ramosepele. Let's give him a bells. He qualifies to get that. Family, thank you very much. Let's get in the comment section. What are you saying about Ramosepele's presentation? Thank you for watching to the end. Please like this video before you leave. Subscribe for my channel if you haven't done so yet. I thank you, family. Bye. See you on my next upload.